we have a Now It Can Be
Oh,
Told.
right.
I know. You forgot.
I forgot.
You forgot
because
we've ranted about it to each other, but we haven't ranted about it on the podcast. I believe I pulled this up. Let me play Dr. Phil on The View.
Really something.
Here we go.
Like 08, 09, smartphones came on, and kids they stopped living their lives and started watching people live their lives. And so we saw the biggest spike and the highest levels of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and suicidality since records have ever been kept. And it's just continued on and on and on. And then COVID hits 10 years later, and the same agencies that knew that are the agencies that shut down the schools for 2 years. Who does that? Who takes away the support system for these children? Who takes them away and shuts it down? And by the way, when they shut it down, they stopped the mandated reporters from being able to see children that were being abused and sexually molested, and in fact sent them home and abandoned them to their abusers with no way to watch, and referrals dropped 50 to 60%. So
there was also a pandemic going on, and they were trying to save
kids' lives. Remember, we know a lot of folks who died during this. So it wasn't, people weren't laying around eating bond, but, well, you know what? We're lucky. Maybe we're lucky they didn't, because we kept them out of the places that they could be sick, because no one wanted to believe we had an issue.
Are you saying no school children died of COVID?
I'm saying it was the safest group. They were the less vulnerable group, and they suffered and will suffer more from the mismanagement of COVID than they will from the exposure to COVID. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
Well, Phil?
Dare they applaud?
Even the View audience knew to applaud that. Amen.
Wow.
How
about that?
Men, and this fact-based, logical, adult argument from Dr. Phil, who they are more friendly to than perhaps another voice that might bring that argument, is met with the height of childish ignorance.
Yeah.
Just, hey, we were saving people from dying.
If the other side thinks it was bad, then they are forced then to say it's good, right? If Randy Weingarten is vilified, then they have to come to Randy Weingarten's defense. Whoopi is gonna Whoopi, right? She's gonna do her thing, but one of the things she says is, maybe we were just lucky. It's called science.
No,
and the data came out early.
If we were lucky and or smart, we would have prevented a bunch of harm to children by not overreacting in this way. By the way, I love this idea that she's like, people didn't want to understand we had a problem. No. You were so willing to believe we had a problem that you projected it onto tiny children who actually didn't have a problem.
Dr. Phil could have mentioned.
Largely. I want to be clear. We're not saying not one child died. Tragically, some did, but the numbers were exceedingly low.
Yes, and in most cases, those children they had comorbidities. They were immunocompromised, and it's terrible. But Dr. Phil could have mentioned the recovery rate for children, even back then for the earlier variants, was 99.996%.
Well, and then the
argument that's not a reason to. It's like, for everybody else, again, like the Barrington Declaration, for the rest of us, we should go out and let us spend a lot of resources and care for those who can't.
Right. Not only are the View folks just sticking to this long debunked position. Yeah. Long ago debunked position. I would say debunked in real time, but everyone was just pretending like it was real. The Wrap reports Dr. Phil doubles down on COVID complaints that stunned the View hosts and gets debunked again. All right, let me just outline. First of all, her claim is to refute Dr. Phil saying that children were not susceptible to life-threatening reactions to this virus means that they suffered more from the quarantine than they ever would have from the virus. It's obviously true.
Yeah.
The reality is, says this reporter, according to the Mayo Clinic, children are as likely to get COVID-19 as adults, just less likely to become severely ill.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
The severely ill part matters a lot, guys. It matters a lot. Now,
It's like getting the flu, but how many people, I mean, it's they're trying to just, anyway, go ahead. I'm getting all
John
worked up over here.
Fugelsang, famous scientist and just kidding. He's just a former VJ.
Okay, sorry. It's right over.
John Fugelsang, who's like a Twitter politician now and I guess an XM Sirius host. He says, though, Dr. Phil, they could pass it to more vulnerable people, right? Okay, so
They're going to kill grandma.
This is
or
the
your
2020,
teacher.
2021 argument that, by the way, was still being used in 2021 and even into 2022 in my school district, which is, I mean, I guess if you want to kill grandma, you can come to school. That was that was the argument. In reality, the data in every place they studied this, and you can go from study to study to study, found that the community spread was often more than what was anything driven by schools. Like it was these two things were not related. If anything, children in school had less community spread.
And they knew this in Europe, by the way, which is why the kids went back earlier, and they weren't insisting on all the kids getting
By the
vaxxed.
way, having all the children with a cohort that is the same in one school building during this pandemic actually logically makes sense that they would be spreading it less because they are then less exposed to fewer places and fewer contacts, right? According to the zero COVID folks. Instead, we had them like running from grandma's house to aunt's house to not at school.
Yeah.
These people don't actually know what happened in schools. They don't actually know about any of the studies.
Well, they'd rather look away.
They're ignorant.
Yeah.
They're ignorant, and they pretend that everyone else is ignorant. Keep on keeping on, Dr. Phil, because you're right.
Yeah,
you're right. Let me see all the studies that Fugelsang cites.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's just grandma dying. Just you're gonna kill grandma.
That was his. Yeah.
The data does not support.
Yeah.
That children were more dangerous. The data does not support that children were dangerous to others. Just doesn't.
Yeah. We know that, and our listeners know that.
If it saves one life.
So again, I mean, a lot.
Can I go on a separate quick rant real quick?
Please.
Speaking of if it saves one life, where's a place they don't care about that particular line? The liberals in Athens, Georgia.
Oh.